subcommittees, the Subcommittee on Western Hemisphere and Global Human Rights and the East Asia Subcommittee. It's a very important event. We don't do joint subcommittee hearings often. It's the first one we've done in 7 years, and it is the first meeting of the Western Hemisphere and Democracy Human Rights Subcommittee in this session of Congress. We wanted to start off with a hearing on something that is deeply, deeply important. And I thank my colleagues, the leadership of both subcommittees and staff for joining on this important matter today. This matter of the treatment of Uyghurs in China has to be highlighted and exclamation pointed to the world. China's human rights abuses are well known and widespread, not just in Xinjiang with the Uyghurs, but in particular across the country. China limits the political expression, religious freedom, reproductive choice, and citizens' ability to choose where they live and work. China has repressed Tibet for decades and has launched a despicable and comprehensive crackdown on political dissent in Hong Kong. All of these issues deserve our condemnation and urgent action by the United States and by the world. Nowhere is the assault on individual freedom and basic human rights more comprehensive and more atrocious than against the Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang province. As a paper released Tuesday by one of our witnesses, Dr. Adrian Zentz, demonstrated, the Chinese government views high concentration of Uyghurs as a national security threat and has been implementing for years a campaign to eliminate the Uyghur population. The tools and the techniques and the ideology behind this reminds me of the discredited Eugenics movement in the United States in the 1910s and 20s that was also responsible in large measure for the Holocaust in Europe pre and during the Second World War. The methods employed by the Chinese government are horrific. They include abduction from third countries, forced disappearances within China, mass detention, secret trials, forced labor, forced sterilization, separating families, banning the use of Uyghur language in schools, and prohibiting a whole range of religious practices. The practices also include political indoctrination, and what individuals around the world are finding is that there is nowhere they can be in the world where they are not safe from persecution by China if they advocate for Uyghur freedom. China has mastered in these horrific practices the use of technology to enhance and accelerate political repression. The installation of surveillance cameras and other devices that can recognize faces, voices, irises, and even the gait of an individual to try to target them for persecution. At the same time, China is sending Uyghurs out of Xinjiang province to work elsewhere in the country and engaged in a campaign to import Han Chinese into Xinjiang, including installing individuals from elsewhere in China to live with and report on Uyghur families. China has in recent years abandoned its well-known one-child policy, and because of demographics is now encouraging Han families to have more children at the same time as they're trying to, through forced sterilization and other methods, drive the birth of Uyghur minority down to near zero. I'm proud that senators of both parties have been working together and highlight and denounce these practices, including by passing legislation determining that these actions constitute genocide. I appreciate that both former Secretary Pompeo and current Secretary Blinken have described these actions as genocide, and that additional countries are now making similar determinations as well. At the same time, our actions have not stopped China's abuses, and in fact, recent research from the Australian Strategic Policy Institute shows that China has built or expanded 61 detention sites just between July 2019 and July 2020. The atrocities that we'll discuss today, and there's visual evidence of them that we'll describe as we're into the hearing, should outrage all of us and motivate us to action. I have an additional layer of concern because the state of Virginia is home to one of the largest diasporas of Uyghurs in the United States. These are citizens and residents who are our neighbors and friends in the Commonwealth, and in many cases, Chinese government actions target these families in Virginia, and we'll hear testimony of that today. We're here to shine a light on the latest information about these atrocities, looking at the issue both at the macro level and highlighting the case, in my instance, of one individual, Dr. Gulshan Abbas, a detained medical doctor who is the sister and niece of one of my constituents. We're particularly interested in the suggestions from our witnesses about how we can pressure China to end these atrocities and bring them to the greater attention of the entire world. If there's things we can do to prevent U.S. companies from behaving either in direct or indirect ways to enhance the surveillance state atrocities against Uyghur Muslims, we want to know that. And I also hope that our witnesses will address any ideas for action that we can take together with our partners. Thank you, and I want to now offer an opportunity for opening comments to the ranking member of the Western Hemisphere and Human Rights Subcommittee, Senators Rubio, and then we'll follow with opening comments from the chair and ranking of the East Asia Subcommittee, Senators Markey and Romney. Senator Rubio.
Well, thank you.